Ever since the rise of G-Funk in the early 90s, crime has had a particular place in the world of hip-hop. With tons of rappers trying to break through on the strength of their street cred, there have been some pretty brazen criminals in the rap game. We've seen this especially magnified in recent years with the rise of drill music and rappers like TPain or YNW Melly, who emulate this style by boldly rapping about their crimes. But that's not what this video's about. We're actually going to be discussing 8 rappers that have a criminal record that you never would have expected. Before we start, make sure you like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more daily uploads. Number 8. Tyler, the Creator. Tyler's image has undergone a serious rebrand with the release of his album Flower Boy. But we still remember his controversial Odd Future days too. With his irreverent lyrics and violent imagery, Tyler attracted enough notoriety to even get banned from the United Kingdom in 2015. But even prior to that, Tyler had some run-ins with the law. Back in 2011, he was arrested while promoting Goblin at Westchester High School under circumstances not entirely understood. Later the same year, he was arrested again under suspicion of vandalism following a show in West Hollywood. Perhaps his most notorious arrest was for inciting a riot at SXSW in 2014. The video to emerge from the event was pretty violent, and people smashed barricades and trampled each other getting in. Pretty ugly stuff. But we're glad to see that Tyler has put that sort of behavior far behind him. Number 7. Dr. Dre. With a net worth of over $700 million and him being one of the most successful hip-hop moguls to date, it's safe to say Dr. Dre has paved an impressive musical and business legacy for himself. He brought us Eminem, created Beats by Dre, and was a big part of bringing NWA, Death Row Records, and the West Coast to the forefront of hip-hop. But people tend to sweep his violent criminal history under the rug. In January of 1991, Dre was attending a music industry party when he allegedly assaulted TV host Dee Barnes, apparently because he was dissatisfied with the reporting about the internal feud between NWA members. Following this, a lawsuit was filed against Dre, which resulted in a $2,500 fine, 2 years of probation, and 240 hours of community service. Just months later, Dre was in New Orleans for a black radio convention when he was charged with battery on a police officer, inciting a riot, criminal damage, and resisting arrest. According to the story, him and his entourage were attempting to enter a hotel when a fight broke out in the lobby between a group of what the police estimated to be 50 people. 2 New Orleans residents who suffered knife wounds during the altercation identified Dre in a photo lineup as their attacker. Dre later pleaded guilty and managed to serve no time for this charge, so he didn't really learn his lesson. A couple years later, he was arrested again, this time in Beverly Hills, for leading the police on a 90 miles per hour chase in his Ferrari. Charged with drunken driving, he pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 8 months in prison. In a 2015 New York Times interview, Dre addressed his violent past and more abusive allegations, saying, quote, 25 years ago, I was a young man drinking too much and in over my head with no real structure in my life. However, none of this is an excuse for what I did. I've been married for 19 years and every day I'm working to be a better man for my family, end quote. At least we can see he's not making excuses for his past wrongdoings, and he's apologized to the women who've made abusive accusations against him. Number 6. Cardi B. Cardi B's charges, in the grand scheme of things, seem pretty minor, but you shouldn't be surprised that the Bronx-raised queen has gotten into trouble with the law. She's probably most infamously known for admitting that she used to sedate and steal from men while working as a stripper, before she was super famous, obviously. This led to a lot of internet backlash, and the hashtag #SurvivingCardiB began trending on Twitter, in reference to the Surviving R. Kelly documentary. However, no men have come forward and accused her of doing this to them, and no charges have been filed to this day. What she has been charged for, however, is starting a fight in a strip club. She was slapped with 2 misdemeanors, assault and reckless endangerment, for a fight she got in with bartenders at the strip club. There seem to be conflicting accounts on what actually went down, with Cardi B's camp claiming the attack was spontaneous, while others claim Cardi had a beef with the bartenders for sleeping with her man, Offset. Regardless of what happened, she turned herself in the next day. By the standards of the rap world, pretty light stuff, and commendable that she turned herself in, rather than going the Tay-K route. Number 5. TPain. The auto-tune crooner and NPR Tiny Desk legend has had a couple of minor infarctions over the course of his legendary career. He was once arrested for driving with a suspended license back in 2007. Nothing too serious, it would seem. He was also fined, but not charged, for bringing a loaded gun to the airport in 2018. He released a video explaining what happened shortly after. In it, he says that he was slapped with a $200 fine after someone from his house took the gun and put it in one of his bags without him knowing. He also notes that he's a licensed gun owner and nothing was illegal about the ownership of the gun. Here's to responsible gun ownership, TPain. Number 4. Lil Yachty. With his goofy personality, silly bars, and general positivity, it comes as a surprise that the Lil Boat star has a criminal record. Just a year before Lil Boat dropped in 2015, Yachty was caught using a bunch of fraudulent credit cards at a mall in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Him and an accomplice were both arrested at the scene, and Yachty had to post an $11,000 bail to be released. That probably stung pretty bad at the time, but within the next year, he'd be a rap star, so that must have eased the pain quite a bit. Number 3. Nicki Minaj. The rap queen of her day, Nicki Minaj dominated the charts for some time and scored features with some of the best. But prior to her successful rap career, she was Onika Mirage, working as a waitress at a Red Lobster in 2003. In that year, she was charged with criminal possession of a weapon with intent to use by the NYPD. There isn't much information out there about it, except for a mugshot of the 20-year-old Minaj. But Minaj has struggled recently as well with a criminal record, but it isn't her own. Near the end of 2018, Minaj flaunted her new boy toy on social media, but faced serious backlash when it was revealed that her man, Kenny Petty, had been charged with attempting to force himself on a 16-year-old girl in 1995, and also spent 7 years in prison after being charged with manslaughter after shooting a man several times in 2006. Minaj fired back quickly, using Instagram to insist her boyfriend was a good man, and that the accusations against him were lacking context. Seems pretty black and white to me, but apparently not to Minaj. And either way, she's rich enough to not have to worry about my opinion anyway. Number 2. Snoop Dogg. It's easy to see the Dogg father as the stoned uncle he is today, and forget about his serious charges from the 90s. Of course, at the time, it was major news, but as we drift further and further away from the 90s, people seem to have forgotten that everybody's favorite Mary Jane enthusiast also faced some pretty hefty charges. Shortly after high school, Snoop Dogg was floating in and out of jail for things such as possession of controlled substances. But the crime which would eventually garner the most notoriety for him was his trial for the slaying of a rival gang member. Charges were brought against Snoop and his bodyguard McKinley Lee, but the two men were acquitted based on testimony that the victim, Philip Woldemariam, was reaching for a gun in his waistband when he was fatally shot by Lee. The trial was highly publicized, having occurred after the runaway success of Snoop Dogg's debut, Doggy Style. Number 1. Eminem. And finally, another rapper whose violent, outrageous ascension to superstardom has been whitewashed with time. Slim Shady himself. Eminem's struggles with his wife-turned-ex, Kim Mathers, are well documented in his music. But apparently he lost his cool when he saw her kissing another man outside a bar in Warren, Michigan in 2001. According to law enforcement, he reportedly pistol-whipped the man and was forced to make a plea deal to avoid more serious charges. He ultimately pled guilty to a concealed weapons charge and in return was not charged with assault with a dangerous weapon. It was noted by the judge that the gun was not loaded and not pointed at anyone. influencing his decision to sentence Eminem to 2 years probation, along with paying roughly $7,000 in court fees. His probation stipulated that he avoid all drugs and alcohol, not own any firearms, and undergo counseling for his behavior. These problems were well known and talked about openly in M's music, and he was able to use this probation to straighten himself out and begin work on his semi-autobiographical movie, 8 Mile. That's our list of unexpected criminals in the world of hip-hop. Which ones surprised you the most? Any that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. And before you leave the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to our channel.